Yeah, I have the other one muted yet.
And we're live. What's up, everybody? This is Kevin from the Thrifting Lounge, and I have a special guest, Dallas Moore from Pickin' Live with Dallas. It's actually an honor to have him come on because he's just so busy, and I was really surprised when I asked him that. He said, sure, no problem, but here he is. I'll have him introduce himself. Take it away, Dallas.
What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be here. Kevin's a friend of many of my friends, so I'm excited to get to know him a little bit better and learn a little bit about what he does in his business and share what I do with mine. So I think it'll be good. I think it'll be fun.
Awesome. Let's get started. The main thing for me, since I want to get to learn more about you, is how you started, and even how you started with the YouTube videos, because I know you're like a legend on YouTube. And anybody talks about Amazon, everyone says Dallas Moore. So,
well, I kind of found picking by accident, and I was in the car business. I was a finance director for an automobile dealer, and I had recently gotten married to my wife, Olivia, and we were looking for a way to fill up our house with stuff, and we were, just kids, and it was 9 years ago. I guess I wasn't that big of a kid, but I was younger, and we went to furniture stores, all kinds of places. Stuff was expensive, and then it clicked in my head that when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to auctions. So we would, when I was a kid, we'd load up and go to the auction, and my dad would buy furniture and stuff and sell it out of the garage or whatever to his buddies. And so I was like, well, let's see if there's any auctions around here. And we were living up in Michigan at the time, and up there, if you guys are familiar, I mean, there's tons of auctions. I mean, you can go to an auction every day of the week. So we went on a Saturday, and we filled up the car with a bunch of crap that we probably didn't really need, and came home and kind of started going through the stuff and putting it where my wife wanted it and making the house look nice. And some of the stuff that was left over, I was just like, I'm going to check this stuff out on eBay, see if this stuff is worth any money. And next thing I know, I was going to an auction every day of the week and filling up car loads and learning and doing what a lot of people out there who are just starting to do, is just kind of hunt and peck and find your little niche or your little things that you enjoy selling. And next thing I know, we moved down to Texas, and all the auctions and everything that are around Michigan aren't down here. I mean, I maybe go to an auction a month down here. So I had to really learn the whole estate sales, garage sales, Goodwill kind of picking philosophy, and that's kind of how I got involved on YouTube, is just kind of getting out there, seeing the Godfathers, the redneck pickers, and the Terminal 99s, and seeing the kind of stuff that they were picking, and started doing that myself. And I had a good knowledge base already established from buying stuff at auctions, so I still could make a living. And now I think we've been down here 6 years now, and we're in a 4,400 square foot warehouse, and doing big business. So just everyone starts at the same place, just learning.
That's exactly that's correct too. I mean, when I was younger, I remember my dad used to force us to go to the Londonderry flea markets in New Hampshire. And now you go there, it's totally. When I was younger, it used to always be full every weekend. I used to buy my baseball cards there, my NASCAR die cast there for like $20 a pop. Now they're like almost $100 for a die cast. But and then when I went there, I think about a year before I moved down here back in 2000, I'd say around 2010, I went there. It was like just full of people that were just trying to sell their trash, literally. And fake purses and the fashion purses and stuff like that. But I mean, I took that, and I always was trying to figure out what I could do for a niche, because I used to sell. I have a selling background. I sold cars for about 5 years, and then the market kind of dried up, and I've been home with my kids since, and working other odd jobs and stuff like that. And one day I started watching. Actually, I forgot it. Yeah, here we go. I'll highlight myself now. But one day I started watching this show, Toy Hunters, and I'm like, man, you watch that show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started watching that. I'm like, wow, these Ninja Turtles, like the pizza slicer, like the car. I'm like, man, I used to have that. So I looked them up on eBay. I'm like, wow, this is no joke. They go for like $500 or $400 new in box. And so I was like, oh, this is where I did a little research, and I found a couple groups that I looked up into, and then I started following YouTube videos, and and then that's how I started. And I mean, my girlfriend, she gave me a couple bucks, and she said, if you can do something with it, then you can, do this full time. After she talked to my sister, and because everything I've tried doing, a lot of the times, like my mind's like OCD, so I'll do something for a little while, and I'll switch, things and do something else. But this has been one constant for the last year and a half, and it's made me really, it's basically I've moved from apartment to a house, so I've done pretty well for myself compared to what I used to be. So I mean, exactly what you said, man. Everybody starts from scratch. It's not like we all of a sudden get things sat on our lap and we start selling stuff like crazy. We always make mistakes, and you got to learn from mistakes.
I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in this. I mean, I can tell you two funny stories. You said baseball cards, and when we were up in Michigan, maybe like the 5th or 6th auction I ever went to, and I come from a car business background as well. I was a finance director for a Kia dealer up there for a long time, and so I had capital, but I didn't have brains. So we went to an auction, and they had a basement full of late 80s, mid 90s baseball cards. I mean, a basement completely full. And it was getting to the end of the auction, and the auctioneer was tired, and he just said, I'm going to sell it all. And I bought all of these baseball cards. I mean, literally, I think it was 3 truckloads full of baseball cards from this auction. And I had no idea how I was going to process it. I had no idea if any of it had value. I had no idea if anything in there was worth money. I didn't have any clue how I could list literally 1 million baseball cards. But I bought it, and I brought it home, and it did what a lot of us do. I mean, when something gets overwhelming, we just kind of sit it in a corner and we forget about it. And that's what those baseball cards did. They just sat in a corner, and I forgot about them. And about 6 months later, my wife said, hey, garage is getting full. We've got to start figuring out what the heck we're doing here and getting a little more focused. And so I was like, well, we'll go out here and we'll go to this flea market. And I'll go to the flea market and I'll sell a bunch of this crap that just is piling up. So we went to the flea market, and I sold almost all of those baseball cards. It made a nice profit. But I still think that's one of my bigger mistakes, because I spent a good chunk of my bankroll. I spent $1,000 on all these baseball cards. And eventually, you're going to have to sell that stuff. And I had no plan how to sell it. So I think that's one of my biggest mistakes. And then a second mistake is I bought this lamp. It's a huge lamp. I mean, probably 3.5 feet across. It came off of a battleship from World War II. And I fell in love with this lamp at an auction. I loved it. I wanted it. And I paid way too much money for it. I mean, this lamp's probably worth $300 to $500, and I think I paid $800 for it. But I fell in love with it. And I think that's a lot of times people's, two biggest mistakes are just when you make a mistake, you just kind of sit it in a corner, and the other one falling in love with something and paying way too much money for it. And those are two of my biggest mistakes that I've ever made. And those are things that every time I go out and buy things, I remember those 2 mistakes so I don't do them again.
Yeah, I think talking about mistakes, my 2 biggest mistakes was number 1, I wish I started this a while back, just knowing how ridiculous some of the profits you can make in this. And then number 2 is that my first auction I ever went to, I should have stuck with what I knew, what I knew would sell good. I mean, even though I made some money there, but I ended up buying this, those small little porcelain Christmas trees, and they have the different colors of the trees. Yeah. I bought one of those for like $25 because I knew I can get like around $75. It was close to Christmas, and I went up to it, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It was cracked in the back. It was missing like 4 or 5 different of the lights, man. And I was like, I didn't even bother picking it up. I just left it there. I was like, you know what? I just wasted $25. So I was like, I was bummed. But like you said, we all make mistakes. We're all not perfect. I'm
far from perfect. I make mistakes every day, but the key is learning from them. I mean, if You know, if you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, then you have a problem. But if you make a mistake, you learn from it, you move on, you know, you can. That's the neat thing about this business is that the biggest mistake you're ever going to make is not trying. So if you're trying, you're going to make mistakes. And get out there and make mistakes and learn from them, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, like I think that I've kind of grown away from like you said with the niches. I think it was Bonafide Hustler that said it. Like he said, if you want to start in this business, you know, find 3 things that you're interested in, you like, and learn from it. You know, learn the heck out of it, and then use those things, and they'll turn into like your little niches. And I mean, it's kind of true because I've done it with sports. Like my whole life, it's with me. It's like New England sports have been a huge part of my life. Which is kind of, you know, some people are like, you got to be kidding me, you know, but I'm from up north, and that's how we are. We're just huge sports fanatics. But I took that, and I bought, you know, baseball bats, hockey sticks, stuff like that. And then I also did, like I have an Afghan back here, and I was never interested in Afghans, and so I started, you know, researching them. And now I pick them up all the time for a couple bucks, and I end up selling them for like $40 minimum. But I mean, I took those, especially clothing. With clothing, it's like I've always been into clothing. I've always been into fashion clothing because, you know, selling cars, you got to wear the best of the best, or else it's not going to work out for you. So I kind of took those, and I learned each niche, you know, with what I didn't know in sports. With what I knew in sports, kind of made up for the clothing and the Afghan. So I kind of concentrated on those areas. And I still do the sports stuff, but it seems like the money's into the items that you can buy for super cheap and make, you know, good profits on. I know you do a lot of stuff. You do groceries, a lot of groceries with Amazon. Now, what would you say your niches are?
Well, we sell vintage photos on eBay, and that's a good business. We sell, I think we have 10,000 of them listed right now, and we sell around 1,000 a month, probably. The next niche is probably the grocery stuff. We do a lot of gift baskets and stuff like that on Amazon, and I think we do good with that. And then I don't really have another niche, so to say. I'm kind of all over the place. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things. I mean, when I first started selling, I would say my biggest niche was probably depression glass, and I learned all I could about depression glass, and that kind of spread off into other things like elegant glass and different glassware, and then next thing I know I was buying dish sets, and then the next thing I know I was buying silverware. So I kind of got a little bit of knowledge about a lot of different things, and I don't really, you know, I understand the philosophy that you're talking about, finding a couple things that you're passionate about. But for a lot of people out there, the things that they're passionate about are things that they can also make mistakes on and get emotional attachments to. Like with you, if you went out and you bought, you said you're from the Northeast, so I'm assuming you're a New England Patriots fan?
Oh, yes.
So if you went out and you bought a Tom Brady autographed jersey and say you stole it for $30, could you go ahead and sell that for $300 on eBay?
No, because I got to authenticate it first. And 9 times out of 10, it's a fake certificate of authenticity. And it pops up, too. Like, if you write who authenticated it, 9 times out of 10, it will pop up part of the people that have been shut down for fraud.
Yeah, but all I'm saying there is that if you're passionate about something, like me, I collect 2 things in my life. I collect vintage BMX bicycles. And if I go out and my plan is to go and pick vintage BMX bicycles, I'm going to pick it all for my garage, and nothing's going to get sold. And the other thing I collect is old 1940s, 1950s wind-up alarm clocks. Those are the only 2 things that I collect, but both of those things I enjoy personally collecting. And if my whole business plan was based around going out and buying those, I would never sell anything. I would just go out and buy. And I think that, you know, like you with the Afghans, you know, you have no emotional attachment at all to the Afghans. And if it was $1 million Afghan, you would be jumping up inside down waiting to sell it.
Yeah.
But if that was that Tom Brady autographed jersey that was authentic, that was sitting there, and even if it was worth big bucks, you're still not going to.
That's like I said. I personally picked things off the eBay. Like I have a Milan Lucic Bruins jersey in there. I bought, and like we were talking about earlier about pictures, and like we both were talking about. We'll discuss it again a little bit, but that your picture's going to sell. If your picture's awesome, it's going to sell for more than the person that like I bought. He threw the jersey, brand new with tags, on his bed. His bed was dirty, wasn't even made, and he threw it up there. And his description was this, okay? Won it on a bet, wanted the Randy Moss jersey, but ended up with the Bruins jersey. And I was like, and again, I was selling, 6 months into selling on eBay, so I'm like, you know what, I'll give this kid a pass because this is super cheap. I'm buying it. But it took 10 days to get to me. And it's like, dude, I should have gotten this in 4 days. It was priority. And he kept giving me all these excuses. So it's stuff like that. The reason why people will actually buy stuff from you if they know you have great feedback and that your pictures are awesome. Yeah. Because I knew what I was going to expect with this type of kid was, you saw it in the pictures.
Yeah. And, that's what we talked about earlier, If you look at a picture on eBay, and I buy a ton of my photographs off of eBay because sellers are lazy and they'll just throw them out into a big pile and you'll never know what you're going to get. And I mean, I've literally bought lots on eBay for 10 cents a picture, 5 cents a picture, and then went through there and pulled out the 10 or 15 that were very good quality pictures and sold those by themselves for $40 and $50 a photograph. And it's just, if you take pride in what you do, it shows in your photographs. If you just think of this as just a way to get rich or a way to, make some extra bucks, and you don't really have pride in, you don't have to have pride in the product. You have to have pride in your business. And it is a business. Even if you're doing it part-time from your garage and you're living at your grandma's house, it's still a business. And if you treat it like a business by taking quality pictures, making quality listings with good descriptions, you're going to see better results in the long run.
I totally agree, and it's like exactly what you say about confidence. When I first started, the one thing when I grew up, I was always let's say I always had self-esteem issues. My dad always put me down, no matter with what I did. And so what I did here was like when I started, I kept saying to my girlfriend, like, "Do you think I should do this? Do you really?" I was overthinking it and overanalyzing it, which I should have never did. Because my first few sales, I was still saying, and I did awesome too, and I was still saying to my girlfriend, am I doing right, and should I be doing this? And she's like, dude, you're overthinking this. You're doing awesome at this. She goes, if anything, you listen to me about everything, so if I didn't think you should be doing this, I would have told you, dude, you can't do this. So it's like, it's good to have a support team, and you've got to have, like, I'm sure you can agree with me, you have to have your confidence in your business and yourself.
Yeah, I agree with both points. I mean, my wife is my biggest backer. I mean, I'm all over the place. Like, I'll be here and here and here and here and all over the place, and she's the one that grabs all these things that I'm doing and pulls them into one little ball, and I couldn't do what I do without her. And, I think confidence comes with success a lot of times, and being in the car business, I mean, you go out there, you sell 4 cars on a Saturday afternoon. That Monday when you come in, you feel better than you did if you sold no cars on a Saturday afternoon. And you're more likely to sell a car on that Monday if you had a good Saturday. And it's just, success keeps building on itself. And, a lot of us get down when our sales get down, or, eBay makes policy changes, or anything that's going on that's, negatively affecting our business. But I'm a big believer in keeping your head down and just moving forward. And at the end of the day, you look up and hopefully you're better than the last day, and you just keep going.
And that reminds me of the night, man, I was like so livid over losing top rate seller by a 0.07% and on something that was not even my fault or the buyer's fault. He just didn't know. But I was down for probably that night, and then the following night, which was Saturday night, I'm sitting here playing video games to keep my mind off eBay because I think if you do too much of this, sometimes you go crazy. So I sat down and played with my uncle, and all of a sudden my girlfriend comes out here. She's like, did you not hear me talk to you 5 different times? I'm like, no. She's like, because I have my headset on. She's like, did you see what you just sold? I'm like, no. And then I saw what I sold. I sold a $275 Laura Piana Hickey Freeman suit. And that's when I was like, you know what? That's awesome, because like I just like not forgot about, but I was like kind of staying away from eBay for a little bit for like a couple hours, just because it was causing me so much stress, because I was so mad about losing it that I didn't realize that, hey, you know, if it was so bad on me, then I just sold a $275 suit, you know. So I also think that that definitely works out too to your advantage. But getting back to the photograph, and I do believe that if you are good at your description and good at your photos, then you're going to get more than, you know, the person that's taking the crappy photos or the bad description, because they want to see more and they want to hear more from you. Like, I know you've done cars, so I don't know if you was on the sales floor, because I was always taught that you want the person to smell the car, touch the car, feel the car, and know about the car. And that's kind of what I put into my descriptions. You know, if they can't smell it or see it, I mean, if they can't smell it, then I'm going to make sure that they know everything about this item. Like, how do you do your listings? What's your listing setup?
Well, I have a little bit of a different philosophy than a lot of people, and the reason I do is because of the mobile platform. I mean, I think that a lot more purchases are coming from mobile, and the descriptions are becoming less important than the photographs. And your photographs have to tell the story, because on a smartphone with a 5-inch monitor, if you have, you know, one of the big monitors, maybe you got a 10-inch monitor, but you know, you can't see. When you click into an eBay listing, it doesn't say anything about description. All you see is the photograph, the title, and that small condition note. And I think those are the three most important things on a listing anymore. And if you have good photos, you have a good quality title, and a good condition note, you can lack a little bit on your description. And it's different when you're selling clothing or things that people are going to need more details for, like measurements or you know, the material it's made out of or whatever. You know, they're going to need more on clothing. But I don't personally sell a ton of clothing, and I sell more antiques, collectibles, and that type of stuff. And most of the people who are purchasing those things already know what it is. They already have touched it. They've already felt it. They've already put it in their hands somewhere else, and they've come to eBay trying to find it. So all they're really looking at is that picture, the condition note, and the title. And for me, I think those, if you figure out how to do those efficiently and effectively, you can be successful at anything you do.
I totally agree, because like you said, it's a lot of it right now is mobile, and I believe the statistics, 37 to 40% is mobile buyers. So you want to be compatible
more every day.
Yeah, because if you're not compatible with mobile, like a lot of people ask me, you know, what about Optavia or whatever, this and that? I'm like, yeah, you know, and I've learned that a lot of the HTML you might as well just throw up, because it kind of messes up a listing on mobile and stuff like that. And I know that a lot of the HTML doesn't help you in the search rankings on eBay either.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that the search rankings are an important part of everything, but there's so many parameters that come into that search rank that, you know, as far as how far you are from the person who is selling it, you know, all kinds of different parameters. But if you focus so much on where am I in search, you're going to lose sales. You need to focus on titles, pictures, and condition notes. If you focus on those three things and and get stuff listed, just get it listed. Don't sit there for an hour trying to come up with some long, beautiful description about how this was in a estate and grandma had it by her goldfish and, whatever. Don't worry about that stuff. Just worry about the title. Get a good, solid title. Make sure that the main keyword that you're using in your title, like for you, if you're selling a Brioni suit, you want to make sure that first word that's in your title is Brioni. You don't want to have men's or something else, because that search is going to key on that first 3 words of that title as key parts of that title. And I see a lot of people who list stuff and they'll put their first 3 words in a listing will be like T-shirt, vintage, blue, and then they won't get anything in there. So it's just, if you focus on those first 3 words of your title and take awesome pictures, you're going to kill it.
Yeah, like I always said, like when I look at ties, I've seen keywords like the first keyword will be like awesome, funky, gorgeous, outrageous, and I'm like, you know that no one's gonna be looking for an outrageous whatever the tie is, and that's your first keyword. That's killing your keyword search because no one's gonna. That's your first. You want the company who made it, or if it's a specific design on a tie, as your first few. You want your first few keywords as your strongest point, that you're gonna make. Now, how about Amazon? Is Amazon that same way, or how do they differ?
No, I think it's very similar. I mean, I've had Amazon's a different beast completely than eBay, but I think search is the same no matter where you're at. And we've had some stuff where we had our titles done stupid. I mean, we messed it up, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing when we first started, and we created some product listings and our titles were terrible. And we still sold them, but these were replenishable items, and when we changed the title, it was amazing the difference. I mean, we went from selling 1 or 2 a week to selling 6 or 7 a week. And it was just by changing that search algorithm so that, it keyed on those first couple of words that really made all of the difference. And, I see a lot of people on Facebook groups and different things all worried about what keywords to put in their deal or whatever, and it's important. Don't get me wrong. You want to get as many keywords as you can in 120 characters or whatever it is. But if you're setting up your title incorrectly, all the keywords in the world aren't going to make a difference. And, focus on those first 3 words. Make sure those are the most important things. Like on Amazon, one of our biggest things that we sell are healthy foods, or stuff like that. And when we had our titles, we would use the product name as the first couple words, and then we changed that to healthy food, da-da-da-da-da-da. We got tons more views, we got tons more sales because there's more people searching healthy food than they are whatever the product is. But just be smart about what you're doing and try different things. I mean, don't be afraid to, if you've got 3 Ralph Lauren golf shirts, put one with one title, put one with another title, and, see which one gets more views, and then you'll kind of play with it and see how it works.
It's funny because I've actually I started doing this, like I've noticed when I started taking from a sport jacket I sold by Ralph Lauren that's linen, it sold within a day. So I've been starting to use those keywords, and I've noticed that my sales have gone up on my previous ones that I didn't use that way because I did it like blazer, sports suit, jacket, coat. And it seems like it really reflects on what it is more just by adding those names and the way those keywords are mixed up in the middle of the title. But yeah, I would definitely don't spend too much time on the keyword. Just like you said, keep it basic, keep it what you think people are going to search for, whether it's a Brioni, surgeon cuffs, alpaca wool, sport jacket or something like that. That's how they're going to look for it. Brioni first, and then they're going to see that in there. And, because I think, like you said, you spend too much time on a list, and then you're wasting too much money for yourself because really we're just like everybody else. We're trying to get paid per item, but with us, it's like how long we spend on a listing, how long we spend on keywording, descriptions, all that stuff. So it adds up to time, and the last thing you want to do is take up so much energy and time that you really you don't have enough energy to do your next listing, or you have a goal for that day, you don't get it done, then you're screwed.
Yeah, and the bottom line of anything is the most valuable asset you have is your time, and figuring out ways to more effectively use it is what makes people who are successful. And that's the same thing with what you were talking about earlier about your setting up your photos differently so that you can get more accomplished and not have to edit as much. I mean, there's all kinds of little things, but if you look at all the little pieces of what you do and figure out better ways to do each piece, and say it takes you 6 steps to list a product on Amazon, and you can find a way to save 5 seconds on each step. That's 30 seconds less that you're going to spend on listing that that item on eBay or Amazon or wherever you're listing it. And 30 seconds add up over the course of an hour. If it takes you 5 minutes to do a listing and you can save 30 seconds on every listing, you can list one more thing in an hour. And that one more thing may be $20 extra to your bottom line. And you do that over the course of a 5-hour day, I mean, that's $100. You do that over the course of a month, that's $3,000. And it all adds up, and it's just those little seconds. And a lot of people get more focused on, I'm not selling, or this isn't going on, or this isn't going right. Just focus on the process, focus on how you do your titles and figure out a better way to do it. Figure out, how you take your pictures like you were talking about. Figure out a better way to do it. Figure out how you package the stuff in a box. Figure out how you put it on shelf. Figure out how you do your item specifics. Figure out how you do all the little pieces of your business, and figure out just ways to do it just a little bit quicker, and you're gonna end up better.
Yeah, exactly. I think that what you're saying is on point, because we all need to manage better our time better. Whether you, like you said, with like managing your inventory, it took me about an hour and a half to find an item that I sold, only because I couldn't find it, and it's supposed to be where it was supposed to be, and it wasn't. So I knew then it must be in the pile where I must have put it mistakenly back in the pile where I haven't took pictures yet. It took me an hour to figure that out, and it was in there, sure enough. So now I feel like if an item I'm missing that I need to go get or grab that should already be sold, now that I did that once, now I don't know if it's going to be in there again. So it's like I need to do it a little bit better than I did it previously.
What a lot of people don't do also that's available to them, especially on eBay, is you've got a field on your eBay that is specific for like a product ID or an inventory number, and a lot of people that's an important part. I mean, I was talking to my mother today, and my mother and father, I got them selling a little bit on eBay, and she had the same circumstance happen with what you had. She sold a set of martini glasses, and she couldn't figure out where she put them. But if you use that little product ID tag that is available to you on eBay when you list stuff, and you set up some kind of control or some kind of inventory where everything that is this code is here and everything is this code is here. I mean, I know Ronnie Hart has a video on YouTube that talks kind of about how he does his codes with clothing. But you can use that item specific right there and just go right into it and put that code in there, and then when you sell it, that's right there when you go to print your label, and you just look at that code and go over to wherever it's hung up and grab it and shove it in a poly mailer and move on down the road. But using all the things that are out there, I think, is an important part of what we do.
Yeah. Speaking about Ronnie Hart, I know he's in the middle of he does this full time also, and he works full time, and he was hoping to catch us live, so I don't know if he's out there in the comments yet. And but I'm a huge fan of his work, and I've kind of adopted I know I told you earlier, but I've kind of trying to adopt what he's doing, where he's like, make up to a certain amount of money, and if it's less than that because he has so much inventory, then he won't touch it. So I'm at the point now where I have so much inventory that if I go out, like I did this not this weekend, the previous weekend before that, up in Orlando, where I got a bunch of stuff where I knew if I could make at least $50 and I bought it for $3 or $4, then I would grab it. Because I have so much inventory here where I have all those stuff that's under $30 or $40, $30 or $20 under, and then I can just sit here and list. But I'm trying to get this big stuff listed so I can start working on the small stuff again. Because I know that the more I buy, the more that the cheaper stuff's going to get in the back burner for me. So I'm trying to get all this stuff listed. Now, what do you do for like a daily schedule? Like when Dallas Moore wakes up to by the time he goes to bed, Monday through Friday. I don't know if you work on the weekends because I don't. Monday through Friday, what is your schedule?
Usually I wake up in the morning and check Amazon and see how much money I made while I slept. And then I'll get up, and just depending on the day of the week, usually Mondays I come out to the shop, and my wife works at the shop, and then we have a girl who works for us too. And I'll come out here and do stuff, just stuff I gotta get done. It's usually my catch-up day. Today it wasn't. I went out and I hit stores today, but normally on a Monday it'll just be my catch-up day. And then Tuesdays is usually when our wholesale orders come in. So I'm usually at the shop for at least an hour in the mornings on Tuesdays, and then the rest of the day I'm out hitting estate or thrift stores. And I have a routes that I do. I've got a route that goes to my east, which hits Shreveport, Louisiana, and I go over there, and they've got a bunch of thrift stores that I hit. And usually if thrift stores aren't going well, I'll switch it up and go to retail arbitrage because I know I can walk into any store and make some money. But the thrift stores, the margins are so much better. I'd much rather have a good day hitting thrift stores than I would have a good day hitting retail arbitrage. But so I go to Shreveport some Tuesdays. Other Tuesdays I'll go south, which I'll hit towns south of me, and then some days I'll go west and hit Tyler and all that area, and other times I'll go up north and I'll hit Texarkana in that area. But where I live, in the town I live in, there's only about 800 people that live in my little bitty town, and so there's one thrift store in my town, but around me, within about a 20-minute drive, there's like 5 larger towns, so I can kind of hit different towns. And then I also go further away, about an hour away, Texarkana, about an hour away to Shreveport, about an hour away to Tyler, and they're all much larger towns, 100,000 plus populations. So I've got a nice little area that I hit here. But Wednesdays are usually we have estate sales usually on Wednesdays that start on Wednesday. So I'll get up first thing in the morning and go hit estate sales, and then usually hit retail stores. And I'm usually out until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, probably most nights of the week. I occasionally do garage sales on Fridays and Saturdays, but most of the time it's retail arbitrage or thrift stores. And I think setting a route, I try to go out 4 days a week hitting stores and hitting thrift stores and retail stores. But usually Thursday is my big estate sale day. There's usually 5 or 6 estate sales on Thursdays. And I love estate sales. I think that's one of the, if you have knowledge and you're smarter than the people that run the estate sales, you can make a lot of money. But then Saturdays, usually me and my wife go out and we do nothing but retail arbitrage for 5 or 6 hours, have a nice dinner, and Sundays usually a day I play with my dogs. So it's a roundabout answer, but it's pretty cool.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Maltese, I have a Border Door, which is a Border Collie Labrador mix, and then I have a Terrier mix.
Yeah, I have a Kawahua Hound German Shepherd mix, and she's super dominant. She's still kind of like a puppy, and but I'm surprised. Well, actually, yeah, I have her put away right now, but she's in the back of my chair while I'm on the videos, and she'll sit there and she'll hump the crap out of a freaking pillow. So that's why I put her away tonight, man. But it's just like she gets too much, man. But I love the dog. It came to a point one time, 2 months ago, where I was like, we got to get rid of this dog. She's sniffing at us. She's growling at us. She's being super dominant. But I took her to a few training classes. It seemed like since then she's been, getting older. Because everyone tells me Kawahua, it takes about 2 years to calm down. So it seems like it's working out now. I'm glad I didn't give her up because I'm like you. I'm sure you love your pets and you grow attached to them. That you don't ever want to get rid of a pet.
No, I've got my Maltese. We've had him since we were married, and he's getting old. And I'm dreading the day that he's no longer around. Even though he's the one dog that I say I hate. He's probably the one I like the most. But he's a little bitty nipper dog and just bark, 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 bark. And but we've had him the longest. And we had a golden retriever that was kind of the same way that you're talking about with your dog. She was so hyper. I mean, just crazy hyper. And she's probably the favorite dog I ever had, and she passed away about 2 years ago with, I guess it wasn't 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago with cancer, and she was an amazing dog after 2 years, but the first 2 years, I mean, she ate a hole in our drywall in our freaking laundry room because we'd lock her in the laundry room. She figured out how to open her cage. We'd put her in at night, put her in the cage. She figured out how to open it, and she was a hell raiser for 2 years. But after that, she was one of the best dogs I ever had. So.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 kids right now. I'm sure you know. I have 3 kids, so it's like I have them, then I have the dog. I have 2 cats. The cats are the easiest ones.
Yeah.
But the dogs, just like at the time, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I was like losing my mind. I mean, you can see my hair. I'm losing my hair, but I was losing my mind because there was so much going on, and then I was trying to do eBay in certain times, and so I've kind of been able to set down a schedule to do my eBay and the extracurricular activities, you know, YouTube and stuff like that. But when did you start YouTube, and how did you get involved in that? Because I get asked that question all the time, and I've never really asked a lot of my guests that, and I want to know from you because I know you're really popular on YouTube.
Well, I was watching videos for a while, and back in the day, I guess it was about 2.5 years ago, T&D had a thing they call, there were 2 girls from Dallas, a mom and a daughter, and they had a thing called the T&D Picker Challenge, I think is what it was called. And you went out and you bought an item, and then you listed it in auction, and the person who got the most profit on that item won that week. And they did this every week for about a month, 2 months, and then, you know, like a lot of people on YouTube, they're around for a little bit and then kind of go away. But so I did one of these challenges, and I won the challenge, and I was like, well, that wasn't too bad, you know. I didn't show my face or nothing, but you know, it wasn't. I didn't feel. I don't know. My biggest fear with YouTube is I don't have real thick skin. You know, I'm not. Stuff gets to me a little bit when, you know, dislikes and people doing things, and it's changed a lot since I started because it bothered me a lot more now, and now I'm just like, whatever, you know, 15 dislikes in 15 minutes, I don't care anymore. But when I first started, it was different because I was like, you know, these people don't like me. I don't understand. I'm giving good stuff here. I don't get it. And we moved to our first warehouse, and I was like, there's no one really doing anything like this on YouTube, and I think that there's people who would want to know about it. So my first video I did was kind of just how our process works. You know, how we list stuff, how we package stuff, how we put it on the shelves, the software we used, all that kind of stuff in the first 3 or 4 videos I did, and I got a lot of good response from it. And then I started talking to different people who were doing YouTube videos that I watched their videos before, and I was like, man, this is cool. I can talk to them, you know, and I was like, this is awesome. And I talked to one of the first people that really came out and sent me like a private message and asked me questions and stuff was Resell Grind, I think was his name, but Paul on he runs a Facebook group now for Amazon media sellers or something like that. But he was the first person that ever really contacted me, and we became friendly and had a friendship. And you know, we'd text back and forth and call on the phone and different stuff. You know, it's nice to have relationships with people, and I think that's what I've found to like the most about YouTube is I don't need to make YouTube videos. I have a wonderful Facebook page, Picking Live, that I can post all my content to, and I can have conversations with people and help them in real time. Where on Facebook, on YouTube, I'm sorry, I may have posted a video a year ago, 2 years ago, and I get people who respond and, you know, say, well, what was that software you're using? Well, that's 4 softwares ago. I don't even remember that. But at least with Facebook and building a Facebook community over there, I can, you know, correspond on a daily basis. If someone has a question or something about something I post on Facebook, they leave a message below, and I can send them a message, or they can send me a private message. And, you know, I love Facebook, and I like YouTube.
Yeah, I think YouTube's a great platform to meet other thrifters. Like before, when I started my Facebook channel, I waited like maybe 2 weeks before I started my YouTube channel and our YouTube channel. And I'm sure Ronnie Hart can tell you and Steve Rakin, man, I was so stiff as a board when I started. Like my first few episodes, my first few videos I put out was just like me just rocking back and forth in my chair, just like straight smiled and like super stiff. And now it's like more like I can actually relate to the person across from me and not feel like if I say something wrong I'm gonna get yelled at or something like that. But I think relationships with people from YouTube, it grows into friendships like I've done with Golden Finger Picker, and Wesley, and all them and stuff like that. It's just because I think it's kind of fun, really it is. And
And there's no one else that we can talk to about what we do. I mean, you go to a party or something, and someone asks you what you do, and you're like, oh, I sell on eBay, and they're like, ah, that guy, what's he, making any money? But at least with people who are doing it at the same time, you have something in common that you can draw from. I've got good relationships with a lot of the same people that you've talked about, and we've never had a conversation other than maybe a couple back and forths to set this up.
yeah,
And but I know from the people that I know that the Ronnie Harts, the Wesleys, the guys that you're friendly with, that I know that those people are good people. So I can infer that you are a good person as well. And I think that there's a lot of people who do YouTube videos or in the picking community who are out to become friends with people. They're out there trying to get relationships. And the hardest thing about YouTube is judging, I don't want to say judging people's intentions. You don't know, I don't know you, but if I watch your YouTube video, maybe I infer something about the way you talk or the way you say things that maybe have nothing to really do with your personality. And at least with Facebook and using Facebook as a platform to communicate back and forth, we can actually have a conversation and, or in a hangout or whatever. I did a lot of hangouts with, Bill Stoner and all those guys before, and we did live hangouts all the time with, a bunch of, on a bunch of different channels. But until you actually meet the person, have a conversation like this, it's tough to really know what kind of people you're dealing with. And I am lucky to know that the people that I deal with, I've been lucky, but I've also had people who I've heard from who've had terrible things happen through meeting people on YouTube and Facebook or different things. So I just think that good people are good people, and it doesn't matter where you talk to them or where you meet them. If they're good people, it's going to come through in the long run.
Speaking about Bill Stoner, I hope you're still friendly with him, right?
Oh yeah, I love Bill.
He's an admin in my group, Thrifting Lounge. I added him about now almost 1,000 people ago when I hit 2,000. And speaking about my group, I just got a message from Josh Harrington. We're 15 away from hitting 3,000. So I don't know if you guys saw a post earlier. I was hoping that we'd hit 3,000 by the time I got on with you, so we could celebrate together. But we might be. But anyhow, we're 15 away, so it's moving along pretty quickly, and we have a great group in there. I know you've been active the last couple of days too, since I've added you on there. I thought you were always in there until I saw Dallas Moore. I'm like, oh man, I got to add him. So I added you, and everybody's in there just trying to help each other out and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's got a real good vibe, and I mean, a lot of Facebook groups out there, there are tons of them, and it's just about what your personal preference on what you want to gain from your Facebook experience. If you're out to learn about Amazon, there's great groups about Amazon. If you're out to learn about eBay, there's great groups about eBay. If you're out to learn about taking better pictures, there's great things about that. If you're out to learn more about marketing your products, there's great groups about that. But just find one that fits you right and be active in it. And you'll learn so much just by being active. And, find one you feel comfortable in. The Thrifting Lounge, I feel comfortable in there, and that's why I've interacted a lot here in the last few days. But for me, it's tough a lot of times because a lot of groups have so many rules or this or you can't say that or you can't do that, and I don't feel that way at all in the Thrifting Lounge. And if you guys aren't part of it and you're watching this, which I don't know how you'd find it other than if you came to watch me and not Kevin, but if you are not part of the Thrifting Lounge, go like it because it's a good group. I've enjoyed my 3 or 4 days I've been part of it.
Yeah, we're fun. Like we envisioned it because I got kicked out of a group before, and their group they delete you if you delete posts. So
Yeah.
I mean, us four, me, Brianna Mola Green, Josh Schwartz, and Josh Harrington, we had an idea like, why don't we just make a group, have it super fun, and the only time we kick anybody out is if we four can agree that what, this person's either bullying somebody or doing something wrong, and it's time for them to go. And of course, we'll talk to the person before we boot them, and if it's something that we figure that it's not going to be fixable, then they're gone. But more than that we just talk everything out. And I think the best line of communication to have a successful Facebook group, and if you have more than one admin or a creator, is to have a great line of communication, because these are people like you talk to on a daily basis and that you're close to. So they're like your inner circle.
Yeah.
They know stuff that you don't tell anybody else, and just like they tell me stuff that I don't let anybody else know. So as long as you keep it, nice, simple, then you're good to go. And honestly, I can't believe I have almost 3,000 people. We have almost 3,000 people in the group, and we started like 5 months ago with that group. And
A good group's going to build quickly, and I mean, you obviously have something going there.
yeah, we just try to stay positive. Like, we're looking into dropping, doing a few different things with it and stuff like that. Like, how about you? Do you have different lines of streams of income? Because this has been brought up by, a few of the people, like how they have different streams of income, and if eBay closed, what else could you go to? And honestly, for me, if eBay closed, I'd be screwed. Or if they closed my account, I'd be screwed. And that's why I'm trying to make some more of a jump towards, the Amazon. I have my Bonanza stuff, but I don't think that makes a difference because I haven't sold anything on it yet. And I'm starting to do Etsy too. So, I mean, do you do anything else?
Well, we sell on eBay, we sell on Amazon. We just got accepted for the 11 Main. We do have a Bonanza account, but it's like
Nothing.
why? And I also have a couple of rental properties. I have YouTube income. I do some on Kindle publishing stuff, and working on a couple different projects right now that, if they work out the way I think they're going to work out, they're going to bring a lot of value to people, and it's something that the other day I don't know, it was a couple months ago, I had on my Facebook page, I made a set of videos about bundling products and bundling products for Amazon and creating bundles and how to find ones that were things that you can make money on, just the whole step of the process that I use to create bundles. And I thought they were awesome videos, and I didn't want to put them out on YouTube or put them out on my Facebook page because I thought they were too good just to give away for free. So I haven't done anything with them, and I probably won't ever do anything with them. But someone on that video or on the thing, I asked, how do you determine what you should charge something for? And one of the people in my Facebook group said, if you would pay money for it, then it's something that is going to bring value. And I've got a project that I'm working on right now that I think brings a ton of value. Is that me? Is that Ronnie?
So I think it's you. Is that you or me?
I don't know.
I don't know. I can't tell either. It's hard to tell with these, man. Like, it comes through so clear too.
I don't know. But I mean, what was I talking about? I'm sorry.
You were talking about someone earlier, and talking about somebody about.
Oh, yeah. It said if you would charge money for it, then it's a product that you should charge money for. And I've got one that I'm working on right now, and if it works out, I think it's going to be a crazy successful deal. And it's something that, I'm not one to charge for information or charge for stuff like that, but this one, if I get it the way I think it's going to be, I mean, I'm 94% of the way there. And if I get it out, you guys just need to make sure you go over to my Picking Live page, because that's the only place I'll advertise it, and just to those people, because I think it's something that during the fourth quarter could make people buco bucks.
I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to end up trying to do so. I know that we're all, because I kind of want to say it, but we're all thinking about doing something together too. That, like you said, if it works out, man, this could be a home run for all of us.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's take some questions from people. Sorry, I haven't took any questions from anybody. I know earlier Picking Profits asked us about depression glass. How is the market for eBay on eBay for that?
It's kind of stopped being as great as it once was because of all of the reproductions. When people can buy a reproduction for $10, they're not going to spend $150 for what's real if it's just going to sit on a shelf. So you've still got your diehard collectors that are willing to pay the money, but that generation is kind of fading away. And I'm sure it'll come back at some point. It's beautiful glass, and somebody's going to put it in a magazine or something like that, and it'll get hot for a little bit. But I just think that it's probably something that's not as lucrative as it was when I was doing it, even 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years ago.
Okay. Brandon Love asked us earlier also, and I just asked some people to, write their questions in. If you have a question, sorry I didn't get to them earlier, I'll try to scroll up as we talk about it. But is anybody selling used vinyl LPs on FBA? Is that even allowed?
Yeah, that's allowed, and I've sold a few. You just got to make sure you grade them correctly. Record collectors are a different breed, and if they're going to pay a premium like they're going to have to buy it on Amazon, they're going to want it to be correctly noted what's up with it, what's wrong with it. You're going to need to be able to play it, so you're going to need a record player to make sure that there's no hidden scratches or skips. But I think it's a good market. I think there's people who make money from just selling vinyl on Amazon FBA. And I think there's a lot of opportunities on different things, not just vinyl on Amazon FBA, but there's a lot of untapped markets. I was looking today, I found a seller who was selling Lego pieces on Amazon FBA, and he was the only seller, and some of this stuff had 20 and 30,000 ranks. And it's not big money, but he's selling it for, $4 or $5 merchant fulfilled with $1.99 shipping, and if it's got a 20 or 30,000 rank, it's selling, 3 or 4 times a week. So it's worth doing. I just think there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, and that stuff, it depends on how much he has. It adds up quickly too. I have a neighbor next to me that wants to do a needlepoint, some sort of cross stitching. No, it is needlepoint. Stockings. They home make kits, and they sell them and stuff like that, and they have their own little shop. They're pretty successful over here. And now he knows that I do eBay, so he wants to kind of collaborate with me. I'll probably make maybe $10 per sale profit margin. But I mean, if we can get it right, there's a lot we can pump out quickly because he personally makes them, and then he packages them up with the how to make them, the instructions in the kit, everything included. So I think that I might look into that also. It's just trying to balance time with doing that and the stuff I have here still and stuff I do here. It's kind of difficult, so it's kind of been like on and off again, thing, just talking back and forth.
Yeah, time is our most valuable asset, and
yeah,
figuring it all out, it's just going to be interesting to see how it all works out.
California Picking wants to know, why did you cut your hair?
I cut my hair once a year, if I need it or not.
He also said the Chinese are driving a lot of high prices on fine art and antiquities. That's good because I tend to buy some art, but I never list it because I'm just scared to, put a number and ship it up there and that it's going to be more. So I'm gonna do with like Brianna does. She gets the item or gets the artwork, and then she'll bring it to a pack and ship, and she'll get like how much it's gonna be to ship it, whatever, and then in that she'll put it in her listing. So I'm looking into that too. Let's see what else. How are your sales this month compared to last month? You seen a big jump in sales?
Yeah, but I do a lot of school supplies on Amazon FBA, and August is the biggest month for school supplies, so it was a big jump, but not a huge jump. July was a rough month, but I took a week vacation and went to the mountains, and I didn't really focus for the first 2 weeks of the month, but it was slower, and especially on eBay. Amazon's pretty steady, especially with our grocery business, but eBay our photo business was a little off.
Yeah. Brandon Love says, just want to tell you all how much I appreciate your videos. It's been so helpful to me as I get going with all this over the past couple months.
Just do it, man. Just do it. Just, Picker Goose, who's a friend of mine, also said in one of
Goose. We're going to go one day. He lives out in Tampa. We're both going to go one day and go thrifting together.
He said in one of his videos about freezing because of what's that called? I don't know. Talking about just go do it, because it's you can sit there and think about it all day, but just go do it.
Yeah. And Pick and Profit says, I hate mobile buyers. They tend to be young. I prefer having customers who are older, more mature, and sit down and really look carefully at the listing and look for important details.
Yeah, I prefer customers with $1 million in their pocket and money to buy 10 million pictures, but we don't really get to choose and pick our buyers. So you kind of got to figure out the platform that goes best to the people who are actually buying.
If I bought something, Louis the Seller said, if I bought something FBA for my personal Amazon buying account, can I sell it via FBA on my Amazon sell account?
No.
No. Here's a great question. We haven't even touched on yet. I know you got into 11 Main. I know a lot about 11 Main because Lynn Marie, she's in it. And but for the people that don't know what 11 Main is, it's a company run by Alibaba, which is one of the biggest online retailers in the world.
It is the largest. It handles more money every year than eBay and Amazon combined.
And she wants Flip-Flops All Day wants to know, what's your opinion on them?
I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. I mean, I'm excited to get approved. I think it's nice to get approved for it, but just like anything else, if you're not going to get views, if you're not selling anything, then it just becomes another platform. But the thing I like about it is that it's got a lot of money behind it, and if they're willing to put the money behind it like anything else, they do. I mean, if you look at everything that they've done, it's been successful. And I don't think this is not going to be successful. And I like to hitch my wagons to people who I think are successful. I mean, you look at what they've done on Amazon and how their business is structured. I mean, that's a company you want to be behind. If you look at eBay and the way that they're doing their business, I'm a little, I think I love eBay. Don't get me wrong. I wish eBay was awesome like it used to be when, it wasn't when you could leave feedback for sellers and buyers, and it was a real platform where you could judge if someone who was buying your product wasn't going to scam you just because they had feedback and different stuff. I love the old platform that eBay had. But they've gone in and they've said, well, we don't really want to be old eBay anymore. We want to be kind of a Amazon, old eBay hybrid. And this 11 Main, from what I've seen and what I've done with it so far, and I've only been a day, it's like old eBay. I mean, the guy, we got an acceptance letter at 8 o'clock this morning. Guy from 11 Main called me at 11 o'clock. He said, we'd love to have you. We're glad you're part of our community. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, here's my personal email. I'm going to be your personal contact. If you have any questions at all, here's my personal email. Here's my personal number that rings right to my desk. If you have anything at all, just call me. I got here, I had a couple questions, I sent them an email, I got a response in 10 minutes. And if even Amazon or eBay, I mean, getting Amazon on the phone is like a joke because you can't even find a phone number 9 times out of 10. And you send them an email and you get a canned response back in 5 minutes, and then you get a real response back in 2 days. And you call eBay and you type in your little code or whatever, and then you sit there on hold for 45 minutes and you get somebody, and then we can't help you, we're going to have to transfer you here. And then you sit on hold for 45 more minutes. So customer service is important, and I'll be interested to see if they get traffic. If they get traffic, I think it's going to be a killer deal.
So you think with them, I think it's not like a small company. I don't want to say anything bad. I like Yordle and stuff like that, but they're not a smaller company. They have deep, deep pockets. So they're going to make sure that they listen to everybody out there, and they want to be successful. Because I know that there's an article out there, Alibaba's, they just came out, and yet they're just not as up to par as everybody else. But then again, you look at any company that just started something new, they were never up to par with the person that's been there a long time.
Look at eBay when it started, or look at Amazon when it started. I mean, it wasn't what it is now, and Alibaba's not going to, or 11 Main or whatever you want to call it, isn't going to be the same in 2 years from now. But, I think, I see a lot of people, I'm a part of the Dallas eBabes and emails group that they have meetings every month, and we went to one a couple of months ago, and you see all these people who, I was with eBay when it first started, and and they take pride in that. And I think if 11 Main really takes off and it becomes what it could become, I'm going to take pride in being one of the original, couple thousand people that were involved with it. But it's still, at this point, what's that old saying? Why, the bank robber, why'd you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. And so I'm going to focus my time and efforts right now on Amazon because that's where the money is. But I hope that 11 Main becomes what it could be.
Yeah, because I'm excited too, because I want to know how you do and everything like that. Because, like I told you, I just finally, after a month and a half, I finally sat down last 3 days and figured out what I want to do for lighting equipment. So once I get that in, I'm going to start trying to do the whole, go down when the clearance, for clothing and stuff like that, or whatever it is, and bring new stuff, buy it, and try to do the 11 Main. Because I know they're super picky about what they let in and who they accept. And I know I could have gotten in. I know they were doing it like if you want to try out, you send them your email, and I got an email from them, but I never took no pictures of them because once Lynn told me that they're really strict on their clothing category, that's when I'm like, I have nothing. I don't think I have anything else to offer besides Afghans or needlepoint cross stitch, and yet those aren't even new either. So.
From when I talk to the guy on the phone, they're more about the story. They want it to be like Main Street America. You go into your local store and you talk to the shop guy, and he tells you about the product, and they want it to be kind of a down homey kind of feel. And I get a lot of Etsy kind of vibe from it, from what they're trying to accomplish.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Especially if you're there to talk to somebody and get back to them. That's what a buyer wants, Because I've put offers on stuff where I don't even hear back from the buyer, and it's like I wish I could hear from that person, or they could write me back, but they don't,
In Alibaba in China, and I've bought stuff for Amazon off Alibaba in China, but the way that it's set up there, and if it even comes a little bit close to the way that 11 Main ends up being, I mean, you can really build relationships with, and they're completely different companies because Alibaba in China is a business-to-business kind of deal, and this is more business-to-consumer, consumer-to-consumer type stuff. But, I mean, those people, you have a question, you hit, I want to talk to this person, and you get a rep from their factory, and you ask them, what are your specs on your, vinyl notebooks, and they're sending you pictures, doing all kinds of stuff, and it's instantaneous kind of conversations. And if it becomes like that, obviously America-fied, because we're not really the same as China, but if it becomes where it's, a conversation between two people, and you have a buyer and a seller, and you can kind of feel like you're part of something, just like back in the 50s or 60s when you went into the old local store. You felt like you were part of a community, and if it becomes that same kind of feel, and I think Etsy has a lot of that feel, but Etsy for me is the same type of thing. Traffic. I just don't get the traffic, and if this gets traffic like eBay and Amazon gets, and gets that Etsy feel, I think it could be a killer deal.
Honestly, I really do think they will eventually definitely get the traffic, and then once that small little spark, starts getting in there, it's gonna be like a huge brush fire. That's what I've read an article before they even came out about how like they're fixed to be the one to really challenge eBay with their strategy and stuff like that. And that's why I was surprised when I read that article last week about how like they're like a hit or miss when they first came out. But like you said, it's only to a few people that have stores, so you really can't judge a first few months of a business's startup compared to eBay's been around for what, like
ever.
Yeah, 15, 20, about 15 years, and it's like you can't just judge somebody overnight.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the way I can just tell, or what I read upon in the first article, is that they're going to be somewhere that eBay is going to be really pressured to try to take down, because they're going to be hard to stop because they have deep pockets.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited about it, and I
really hope it works out.
Yeah, I do too. I want more money. I promise you.
Yeah, I think we all do. I had a question right here from Kathleen Brown. She wanted to know, where'd it go? Oh, do you think there'll ever be a vintage category on Amazon, like vintage glass, pottery, art, clothing, etc.?
Well, they already have art, and you can sell a lot of used stuff on there that's not necessarily vinyl or different things. But I don't think Amazon's really interested in that market. The hardest part about you can sell vintage electronics, you can sell a lot of vintage stuff on Amazon, but Amazon's more interested in stuff that they can compete in, and they can't ever compete, and they're not going to go out and hit garage sales and estate sales. They're going to, they're building their business for themselves, and we just got to play along. So it's just, I don't think there'll ever be a significant interest in it. But I do think that somebody along the lines, be it 11 Main or someone buys a new startup that's starting in somebody's garage or something like that, I think there's a definite need for eBay wants to be more like Amazon, and they want to sell more new products. They want to get into fulfillment. They want to get into all this stuff, and they're really not looking at what the market needs. The market needs a platform in which is strictly a good platform for vintage, antiques, collectibles, rare, not necessarily rare stuff, but they need the market needs a garage sale site, and there isn't a garage sale site. eBay used to be a garage sale site where you could go on there and it was like a local garage sale. You could go on there, you could find anything and everything. But now it's still a garage sale site, but their whole marketing plan and everything they're doing is for this whole Amazon type of business plan, and it just doesn't make sense. But somebody at some point is going to figure that out and make a killer platform that's built for nothing but antiques and collectibles.
See, I know Etsy does a lot with the antiques, collectibles, vintage stuff, but they're also they tend to a buyer that wants to buy stuff more expensive. I noticed that whenever I talk to somebody that runs Etsy, whether it's Linda Bottino, who has her own Etsy store and stuff like that, she always tells me that someone tends to buy an item a lot more expensive than it is on eBay when it comes to vintage clothing, because that's all she deals with. There's a few other things she deals with, but mostly vintage women's clothing. She says she finds more profit on Etsy than eBay.
Well, what's the volume difference is what my question would be.
It's not as much as if you were selling on eBay, so it's definitely...
If you're going to sell 10 shirts and make $10 profit, I would rather do that than sell 3 shirts and make $15 profit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but she has sold a few things to production companies like Bones, Vegas, a few other places. So
I know Global Voodoo. He was a friend of mine, and he sold a lot of stuff to Hollywood and stuff on vintage T-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool though, because they must save the seller in like their some sort of save button, and then just go back to see if they have it there. That's pretty awesome. I've never had anything like that happen to me. Have you?
I sold some stuff, not necessarily famous people. I mean, senators and congressmen. I had a vintage photo that was of the Maine 1922 Maine State House. It was a large framed picture with all of the senators and House of Representatives people for the state of Maine out in front, and I sold that to a senator in Maine. I sold, just nothing really. We sell a lot of our photos to a guy who's the largest vintage photo collector in the world. He has a personal collection over 10 million snapshots, and he puts them, but he buys 70 or 80 from us a month, probably more than that. And, we've got a few of those. I've sold stuff to museums, but nothing that was like, man, that's, awesome, but some stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk about vintage pictures you have that you're talking about. What do you look for in them?
Well, it's subject matter is what it all comes down to. It doesn't matter how big or how small the picture is. If it has good subject matter is what matters. And it's not necessarily what, is it a good picture? Is it framed nicely, or, is it a clean image or anything like that? A lot of times we saw there's one guy who buys nothing but fuzzy pictures. So, he buys nothing but fuzzy pictures. I have another guy, he buys nothing but pictures with 4 ladies in them. And, just crazy stuff, but that's what these collectors buy. And you kind of learn what they're buying and their habits. But, if you're starting out, you're going to a estate sale, you find a photo album, you want to look for things that you can recognize and you can identify. You want to look for old cars that maybe are oddball cars, or things that you can identify to, keyword search and drive more traffic. I had a picture not too long ago that had 2 babies in it, but sitting between the babies was a cast iron bank. And I bought that picture for like $1, but I was able to, get a keyword in there, and I didn't even list it in photographs. I listed it under cast iron banks. And I sold that picture within 3 days for $50.
Wow.
And it's just, being able to identify if it's if there's a bridge, if you can identify the bridge, if if it's a city, if you can identify the city, all that type of stuff helps. But, look for cars, look for kids, babies, look for swimsuit pictures, not even like sexy swimsuit pictures, but just pictures of people in swimsuits at the beach. Those all do real well. Look for soldiers, military stuff, planes. It's all about subject matter on old photos. Motorcycles, just oddball, crazy stuff. And look for images that you look at and you say, man, that's a cool picture. Even, all I'm talking about is little bitty snapshots, But if you look at it and there's 4 people who are, one guy's got his legs over and the next guy, or a bunch of people in costumes, or, whatever. But if it's a cool picture and you look at it and you say, man, that's awesome, it's probably going to sell.
Yeah, I got some slides from the 1950s and the early 60s that I think are absolutely cool. Like I told you earlier, I have a photography background, so I didn't know what slides that when you put them up, you can actually see them in color, and it's pretty cool to see that. Because this guy that I got the estates, I went to the States, so I got his like 8mm, 16mm films and stuff like that from Disney, Washington D.C., Canada. I think one was in England also, and his slides must be from all around there too. But the few slides that I saw, one was titled New York, and it was pretty cool because there was one of the photos the slides I was able to look up to the light, and it was like a picture of him and his family, and behind him it was like the street down where you could look up and you see the Empire State Building. So it was like framed really nicely, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I sell 35mm frames because no one values them. I mean, a lot of people don't even know what the hell's on them, but I bought a bunch. I don't know, it's probably 4 or 5 months ago, and it was a amateur photography club, and it was all like risque kind of pictures, but they weren't, it's from the 50s. I mean, they're in bathing suits, but it was all, and I mean, I killed it on that. I sold that as a personal collection to somebody, and I found like World's Fair slides, like from New York or wherever. They had World's Fair back in the 70s and 60s, all kinds of different places, Kansas City, New York. But if you can find those World's Fair slides, I mean, I've sold lots of World's Fair slides for $50 or $60. So it's just subject matter.
Yeah, because I bought a box full of the slides and I think 10 different 16mm home videos. I bought them for $16 for the whole box, and there's like, I want to say 20 different 35mm slides, and it comes in the Kodak box where you put the slides in and out, and they're all full of different subject matter and stuff like that. And
are they the red slides? Are the slides themselves like painted red around the outside of them? Do you know?
I'll have to check, but I don't think so.
If they're, I don't think I have any here, but if they're a red slide, it's earlier than if they were just like a yellow or a white slide.
Yeah, because these are definitely from late 50s to early 60s, because everything was dated that time. He would date them and everything. And I mean, it's funny because out of the whole stuff, I thought that was interesting stuff that I found, because I've never gone out and bought the 16mm home videos or the slides. And once I saw that, I'm like, for 15, 16 bucks, I was like, man, I'll just grab it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'll grab myself a projector and watch his home videos, and I think that's pretty cool too, because I know Golden Finger Picker he collects videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've never figured out.
I never even thought of the films, and then I was watching a show he was on not too long ago, and he was talking about it, and I went and researched on eBay, and I mean, looks like the Disney one you were talking about or whatever. I mean, that's some good bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Disney one was the late 60s. It was a Disneyland. I think it was because I don't think Disney World was done in the early 70s. But it was Disneyland, and this guy he was a guy that collected the stuff in the 60s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and I don't know if you watched my haul video, but it's actually the estate sale haul video was from the stuff that I got at his house. I mean, I'm talking a Sherlin Woolrich jacket, old one. I have his Letterman from the 1940s, his Letterman college sweater. It wasn't even a jacket, it was a sweater back then, from Maryland, and it has his name sewn in the bottom seam of it, which is really cool. I have that. And I got so much stuff from his house, but I really thought these movies and the slides was really out there, because I've never bothered to look at slides like that. Like, I've never even seen a slide, let alone grab them. But once I saw that, and I do photography, so I saw that, I'm like, wow, this is just, it's amazing how you can see that what they were wearing back then. Everything was in color, because when I think 60s and 50s, I think black and white, because I never grew up in that era.
No, that's the neat thing about slides. I mean, I love the photos, and it's a little piece of history in everyone, and everyone's different. And a lot of people say, well, why give out all this information? You're going to ruin your market or whatever. I'm not ruining any market. Every picture is different. If you can go find the exact same picture that I show in a video or whatever, you're probably living very close to me, because that's the only way you could.
Yeah. We also got a good question too. Stacy Staggs wants to know, when you see a lot of pics at a sale, how much do you try to get them for, or do you lot them together?
If it's just usually when I buy them, I mean, it's an album full, and I try, the number that we like to stick around is about 15 cents a picture, and I'll buy anything for 15 cents a picture. So if there's 100 pictures, I'll pay $15. If there's 1,000 pictures, I'll pay $150. And it doesn't matter the content in those pictures. I know I can make profit at that figure. If it's better subject matter, if it's whatever, I mean, I'll go up from there. I mean, I've paid as much as, I don't know, $55, $60 for a single image, but it just, it depends on the subject matter, but if you can buy stuff for 15 cents, you're not going to get hurt, and you can lot it up and sell it and make profit there, even if it's, individually they're not necessarily valuable. But I've built a process with the pictures that we can list so many that the process is the reason why I can make good money at $4.88 a picture.
Yeah. And another good question, actually a good comment. Star Squatch said, I'm sitting on a pile of World War II snapshots. Nothing recognizable, though. Should I dig them out, though?
I would, and send them to me. I'll give you my address. But, I mean, World War II, all that type of stuff, I mean, it's good. And, I love buying lots on eBay. I buy lots, and I can buy lots on eBay for about 15 to 20 cents a picture. And, if anybody just doesn't feel like listing their pictures and just wants to move them, go over to my Facebook page, Picking Live. I'll pay you 15 cents a picture, and they can get out of your garage or your basement or your attic or whatever.
That's good, though. I mean, advertising on here, too, helps. Especially 15 cents a picture is like next to nothing. Because that's also good for you because you feel comfortable with that because you might be able to get, maybe $1 out of the picture per picture. So because again, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But you're hoping to bank on one or two items or a couple items in there that are worth the 25 plus range.
I mean, every day we sell 35 pictures a day at $5 a piece, and I mean it adds up. And then once in a while you'll get one in auction that will go crazy, and it'll sell for $150. I mean, I had a picture a month or so ago that was just a lady standing in the street holding another picture in her hand, and you couldn't see her body. All you could see was her legs and her hand, and a picture of a soldier, and that sold for like $127. And I'm like, why? Why is this one worth so much more? And you don't know, and that's why we run everything in auction. We start everything at $488, and we run it, and every week we get something that goes crazy and goes for $40 or $50.
Now, what about shipping on those? Do you do free shipping or
We do free domestic shipping, and we charge international $1.99 plus 50 cents per photo.
Okay. Before we wrap this up, I want to do something different tonight. I want to basically do, because in all my other ones I never did like, oh, what was your best sales or whatever for the week, but can you give me your last 2 best sales for the week and what they were?
I sold a pair of Jordan 6s for, I don't know, like $190 or something like that with the box. And probably that jadeite picture I was talking to you earlier about, $325 for a lit jadeite picture.
Now, are you noticing that the profits are kind of going up the later we get in the season or anything? Because I've noticed with my last couple, like my last 10 sales, it's definitely a lot of profit in there.
Well, I think as you get, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird time of year right now. You've got kids going back to schools in some parts of the country, and other parts of the country they've been back for a couple of weeks. In the north, they haven't gone back yet, so you still got a lot of different stuff moving and shaking. And I think that from this point forward, the key is getting those kids back to school so mom can sit on her computer in the afternoon and shop, and dad or whoever, But that's the key, and there's nothing else to do, and they get on there and they shop. But I think that with the stuff you sell, I mean, you sell higher-end clothing, and I just can't see how time frame of the year would affect clothing other than, is it a jacket, is it heavy, just like you would with any seasonal thing. But on higher-end clothing, I think it would be more steady than it would be with cheaper stuff where you're worrying about people getting paychecks.
Yeah. My dog's over there sniffing underneath the door. I'll give you my 2. My 2 for the week, I sold, I think I talked about earlier, the Hickey Freeman Loro Piana suit, the slacks and the jacket for $275. I mean, I knew I had a price because I saw people sell for around the $250 to $260 mark, And then I also just sold, right before we got on the private hangout, the two-piece woman's Giorgio Armani two-piece woman's suit. It was the skirt and blazer. It was bright red. And I didn't have any accent on it for a month. And then yesterday, this person wrote me it's for her friend, and she wanted me to know if it was in good condition. And I said, no, this thing's in mint condition. Like I said, if it was ever worn, it doesn't show it at all. And because I'm honest with my customers, so I let them know, if they ask me, I'll tell them the truth. Hey, if I got it at a thrift store, I'll tell you I got it at a thrift store, and I'll tell you that, if it's in good condition or not. And it seems to never affect anything, because I think it's an open line of communication with the customer, that you're actually sitting there and you tell them the truth so they can trust you. And so they offered me 75 and 80, and then I had automatic decline. And then tonight, right before I got on with you, they bought it full price. So they must have knew that, they got the message, so they understood that what I was telling was correct. Because I mean, it's a gorgeous suit, woman's two-piece suit. But I find the last 7 items I've sold have gone for really, really good profit. So I'm keeping up with the old, trying to keep it at a certain profit. And if I can't make that profit, kind of like, because I have so much inventory here, I'm looking into to either open up like an office space for cheap, where I can just have my inventory there, have my kids run around, and I can list my stuff. Because my ultimate goal is by this time next year, we're making enough money where my girlfriend's not working anymore, and I can basically concentrate solely on the business, going out, getting the stuff, training her on how I want my stuff set up, how to take the pictures and stuff like that. So that's my ultimate goal, because I think that if it's 2 of us working in this business, we can make more than what she's making at her job right now as a bill collector, and it'll be a lot less stressful, because right now it's so stressful for her, right now.
And my wife, she was district manager for Kellogg's, which is big grocery store for 3-state region, and it was nice to have that income and be able to say, well, if something happens here, we always can do that or whatever, But same thing, the stress level, and she left. I guess it was about a year ago now, 8 months ago, and we haven't looked back.
Now, have you noticed that since she left, that it's easier for you to get things done, and that you're able to put more things up with 2 heads better than 1?
Well, it's tough for me to say that, because we've moved from one warehouse to a much larger warehouse, and obviously the numbers have gone up, but the business plan has changed too. But I think she's helped tremendously, because we're doing huge numbers more than we were last year, and other than the warehouse and focusing a little bit more on our Amazon business, that's the only thing that's really changed.
Now, do you see yourself going away from eBay and doing either, if it's 11 Main or Amazon, completely 100%?
I don't know. I think the profit margins on the stuff that I sell on eBay are too good for me to walk away from. I mean, I've trained my picker eye, or whatever you want to call it, to find value where other people don't see it. And I think it would be tough to stop doing that completely. What I would like to eventually get to is where the photo business is rocking on 11 Main. It's doing awesome. On eBay, we list maybe 100 things a month with high turn, high profit margins, and the focus is a lot more on Amazon and what we're building there. But right now, I mean, 90% of my focus is on Amazon, because that's where I'm making the money. I mean, we make a lot of money, not a lot of money, but good money on eBay with the pictures and everything else. But majority of our income comes from Amazon, and that's where the focus has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to start doing Amazon too, because I talk to Gil Money a lot, and they're doing awesome on Amazon also and stuff like that, and You know, I was mentored by Brianna, so like I usually take, if she has a word on something, I'll do whatever, you know, I think is working. If it's working for her, then I know it's going to work for me. And when she started Amazon, I think the first month they were like on her for everything, like any little bigger thing, like they would take down some of her stuff. And then, but when she started doing the whole FBA thing and getting under control, and now she's just like, you know what, you should seriously think about doing Amazon FBA. And if she's saying that to me, I take her word for it because, you know, we do a lot of talking together and stuff like that. So it's like I feel like now I need to settle down, get this inventory set on eBay, and then step away and do some sort of arbitrage, whether it's at TJ Maxx or something like that, and or anything like that, and do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part is time management, and you know, eBay always pulls me back. You know what I'm saying? I go to an estate sale and I find something, and my rule now on estate sales, if I can't make 15 times my money on buying something, thrift, garage sale, estate sales, to sell on eBay, it's not worth my time to do it, because I can make so much more on Amazon. But I always find something, and then I'm like, well, I'm buying this, so I might as well buy that. And oh, I'm buying that, so I might. And the next thing I know, I got 10 or 11 things I got to list on eBay, and you know, we've worked on our process for eBay, so we can kind of get some stuff going. But it's just there's never enough hours in the day to do everything you want to do.
There isn't, especially that. I mean, I have 3 kids that I watch, you know, during the day and stuff like that. So it's like I've been a lot better at managing my time on what I do, whether it's, you know, hangouts, private hangouts. I've kind of, you know, cut that back a lot because I noticed when I was doing the private hangouts when the kids were sleeping, I wasn't getting much work done. You know, I wasn't getting the clothes listed or the pictures taken. And, you know, ever since I've scaled back on that, I've been able to get a lot more done. Like, I've been able to actually set goals for myself per day and get them done. And, I mean, I'm just so stoked to get this lighting equipment in so I can just make my stuff look even better than they were. And then, like we were talking about earlier, cutting down my time frame on taking the pictures and then edit them and then listening to them, because that's my most time I'm spending right now is all that. Is there any other comments in there?
I think we're about done. I've got to.
Yeah, I'm good. It's getting late for me. I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, but seriously, thanks a lot for coming on.
Oh man, I enjoyed it very much.
And I know how busy you are, so I was like super surprised when you said, "Yeah, man, I'll come on." So I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And again, like I try to do these interviews so I get to know you better. And I've been trying to get so you can get to learn me a little bit better too, because. If we do anything in the future, you always want to be able to know the person, you know, before you venture into any sort of opportunity. But seriously, thanks again for coming on, and let's tell everybody where we can find you at.
Picking Live on Facebook or Picking Live on Twitter. Both of those you can find me. I've been messing around with Vine a little bit, Picking Live on Vine. So wherever I'm at, it's Picking Live, other than YouTube, which is just my name, Dallas Moore.
Awesome. And to give you a quick update, you can find me at oh, there we go. Am I stalling a little bit, or am I good?
You're good now, but you were stalling a little bit there.
Yeah, like my screen stalled. But you can find me, of course, on the Thrifting Lounge YouTube channel, Facebook group. Our Facebook group, just to give an update, is 4 away from 3,000. So we actually got pretty close to that number tonight, but I'm sure in about 15, 20 minutes I'll have 3,000, and but to me that means a lot to me. That means that people are coming to my group and looking for information, stuff like that. I'd never dreamed it would be this big. So, and to sit here,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's fun though, but it gets stressful at times. But thank you guys for watching again. I'm gonna try next week to get Flippin' Profits on or somebody else. I'm really hoping to try to get maybe Danny Ackerman on. But we'll see what I can do. If you guys have any suggestions on who you want to see next week, let me know. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.